up the.
And welcome to Down the Alley. This is PMAC.
And Ted T.S. Spirides.
And Katie,
Katie's eating. I'm eating. I'm eating some of Katie's homemade ice cream. She made this Memorial Day weekend. I know Annie and her have been talking. Has Annie whipped up her recipe yet?
No, nothing current, but she does make homemade ice cream. It
Yeah.
has a couple different
she
versions
has. Does she have an ice cream maker? Or does she use her KitchenAid?
ice cream maker.
Yeah, so I just have the KitchenAid attachment. So it's kind of cheating, but it turned out it was so fast. I bought a starter from Williams Sonoma. So it was like, what is it? A salted caramel. So it's like a powder, and then you just added milk and cream and just stuck it in this bowl.
Yep.
And put it in the kitchen. Like it fits in your KitchenAid mixer, and then you just stir it up, and it just like instantly made ice cream, and it was very good. What do you think about it, PMAC?
I was not a part of the process at all, other than eating it, and I'm eating it again for the second time this weekend, and I'm a fan. I loved your mom's touch of adding the salted
Oh yeah,
caramel,
yeah.
some
We
sort of
added like
chocolate
salted
situation
caramels.
to the
Nice.
ice cream.
Yeah.
Yeah, big fan. Excited. I know Annie was talking to us about it a couple weeks ago. Excited for her to roll out some ice cream. Happy to taste
For
test
me,
it.
it was like a
Another taste
consistency
test it.
thing. I think you're supposed to freeze it because like this bowl is pre-frozen. So essentially it's just kind of like freezing the milk as it goes. And I think what I liked the best about it was the consistency right out of that bowl. Like right mixed, fresh ice cream. How does it taste now? Because now it's a day old. And I think you're technically supposed to freeze it
I would
again.
say yesterday was great, but it was different. Like now it's more of a ice cream
Scoop.
consistency than
Yeah.
yesterday was kind of a soft, more of like a soft serve almost.
Yeah. See, I love that.
Oh,
I
I know.
love
I
like
love
a really
both. I love both.
soft
I love both. I'm not complaining
ice
about
cream.
either consistency.
And that's what I don't like about ice cream, like that you like a tub of ice cream you keep in your freezer, it gets too hard.
Yeah, you
And
gotta
I like a softer, like a gelato or like a custard.
Yep.
So good.
Well, this is our section preview bonus episode. We're going to be ripping through. The Source did a whole bunch of homework this weekend. Ted, shout out to you. You did a bunch of homework as well. Having a cold game, cold blogging. You're sneezing and blogging behind the keyboard this weekend. We appreciate the work and research you did. But before we dive into the section previews, Old Southern Barbecue, they've been riding with us all season. And to wrap up this regular season, we want to shout out the fathers, the Lax Dads. Father's Day is coming up. And I'm looking on their website. They've got this special gift box set, Father's Day special. It looks like you get 4 rubs and then a bonus free bottle of sauce, 25 bones. And if you use DTA 15% off that. I have used all different sorts of seasonings and whatnot. You don't get 4 seasonings for $25 plus a bottle of sauce anywhere else, folks. DTA 15% off that great deal. The great deal it already is. Check that out if your hubby or if your dad is looking to grill and smoke all summer long.
And also stop into one of their locations. I know we've talked a lot about merch and sauces, but they do have various locations around the Twin Cities. And I know that on Father's Day weekend, the big Blue Ox lacrosse tournament is happening in Blaine. And I believe people can check the geography. They do have an Arden Hills location. I don't know how close to Blaine that is, but it's probably the closest one to Blaine. A few minutes. So if you've like never been to an Old Southern Barbecue and you're doing the Blue Ox tournament with one of the many club teams around the state here in a couple weekends on Father's Day weekend, maybe hit up Old Southern Barbecue if you have sometimes you have that big 4-hour break, right? And you need to go and kill some time. Great option as well.
Old Southern Barbecue, thank you for riding with us all season. Still got playoffs, still got sections. We're going to be diving into that now. Appreciate everything Old Southern Barbecue has done for us this season. Thanks for riding with us. Section previews. We'll start with the girls because girls rule. And the source, shout out to the source. Like, shout out to the source. If you haven't seen it, huge blog, deep dives by the source. It's been tweeted out. Otherwise, go to downthealleypod.com. Click on the quarterly check-in and section preview girls, written by Mrs. PMAX Source. Shout out the source. Great dives. A lot of data and information to compile. The source did a great job. Katie, Ted, I'll kind of kick it over to you and I'll chime in as we go. How did everything shake out? How clueless were we? Let's dive right into this thing.
Well, honestly, I need to pull up our posts.
Yeah. So
of what?
Like our predictions.
No, the source tells us. The source tells us, gives us all the information here.
Well, I think there was no surprise. It was going to be Lakeville South. We all picked Lakeville South.
Well, that's section 1. Ted, what do you got? I feel like
we're going through section 1.
I think like Lakeville South, obviously, I think we talked them up big in the preseason. No surprise, 13-0. They're the 1 seed. But I think the story of this section is Southwest Christian at 12-1, earning the 3 seed. Lakeville North gets the 2 seed at 9-4 over Southwest Christian at 12-1. Maybe a strength of schedule thing, maybe a head-to-head. I didn't see the the exact schedule or break it down, but that could be a potential semifinal. We had Southwest Christian girls coach on, was it last year?
Yeah.
Season. He was talking about kind of the slow climb where, year 1, they played a lot of like lower level teams. Year 2, let's integrate a couple bigger teams. Year 3, maybe a couple more tougher matchups. And I think they've answered the bell, get moved into section 1 this year and get the 3 seed. So shout out to them. Owatonna also at 11-2 this year. They're having a great season as well. Again, Farmington has the 4 because I think they, again, tougher schedule maybe gave them a vote, as far as seeding, but that'll be an interesting game as well between Farmington 6-7 and Owatonna 11-2 in the quarterfinals. But, is this just a race to see who loses to South in the section final? Maybe, but a couple big stepping stones for some teams that kind of popped off this year.
Katie?
That's all I got. I think that's all we have, is that Lakeville South is a thing. So
yeah,
it's probably going to be there to take.
Source's prediction is South over Southwest Christian. So that would have Southwest Christian, quote unquote, upsetting North. In the, if everything kind of shakes out in the semifinals, which would be a huge, kind of
fun for them.
Yeah, it'd be a huge step for Southwest Christian to get to that section final.
Agreed.
On to section 2.
This is the one I'm watching closely. This is like, if section 6 is a gauntlet, this is whatever is next to a gauntlet. I don't know. I don't know what it is. A cup of some sort.
For girls, I think section 2 is harder than section 6.
Yeah, I agree. But in general, section 6 is usually what's everyone's talking about. This is going to be 1 through 4 is an absolute arms race of who is going to come to play. 1 through 3 have the exact same record. EP, Minnetonka, Orono, in that order, 1, 2, 3. They are all 11-2, beating each other. Like, the only losses are to the other 2 teams in that trio.
Yep.
Pretty sure. And maybe Prior Lake.
Yeah. Orono, I get it's tough, and Eden Prairie, they lost to Orono in the first game of the season, but they had some other big wins down the line. That seeding, everybody being 11-2. I guess I can't disagree with that seeding. I could also have agreed or not disagreed with any other mixture of those top three teams between EP, Minnetonka, and Orono being 1, 2, 3. That sets up some pretty nice potential semifinals. Again, we don't know. Someone could get upset, but yeah, I would be. Yeah, it's going to be that's going to be a very competitive section. The source predicts Minnetonka over Eden Prairie in the final. I would not be surprised if Orono wins over Minnetonka in the semis. Lot of bullet points here. There's a section, how clueless were we, in the blog. None of us had EP first,
Yeah.
which why do we not? Why do we do this to ourselves?
I don't know.
Eden Prairie, playoff Eden Prairie is a thing, but we all slept on them. They had a great season.
And now they're first.
PMAC did not even have EP in the top 4. The source was keeping their eye on Hutchinson, who ended up being in the 7 seed. Katie and PMAC had Chan first.
And I'm doubling down. I am doubling down on Chan. They're the 4, and they're gonna beat the 1. They're gonna beat the 1, folks. I'm still sleeping on Eden Prairie, and I'm doubling down on Chan. Here we go, Storm. The Storm is just.
They got to beat Chaska first. They have a quarterfinal game against Chaska.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, you think I'm not worried? The Storm is just beginning, folks. The Storm is just beginning.
PMAC is still all in on the Chan Storm, battle tested squad. You know, they've been to state, they've won the section. This is gonna be a fun one to watch. If you are a girls lacrosse fan, Minnesota girls lacrosse fan, section 2 is one to watch. Really, honestly, any of these teams, and even in the top, I would say top 4 or 5 could make a run here. So, section 2, crazy section.
I'm going with the source on this, and I think it's going to be Tonka EP, and I think Tonka's going to win.
Yeah, you've been hot on Tonka. Ted, who do you got?
I think it said here I picked Minnetonka first preseason. I'm going to go Eden Prairie. I know that's the chalk here, but playoff Eden Prairie is Sunday Tiger. They wear the red, and it's just I don't know. There's an aura there of they just know how to win. They know how to win in the playoffs, and
it's a legacy.
It is. It really is. And
are we making a graphic on our picks?
I don't think so. Maybe. I don't know. I don't know if I have time to do it, but we'll see.
Okay. Section 3.
You can write it down.
We were pretty much mostly clueless, except for Ted. Ted looking smart, having Park at 1.
I had Park at 2 and CDH at 1 and Eastridge at 3. So at least, no. So I at least got 3 of the 4, and PMAC, you had 3 of the 4, but you were the only one who had Simile in there.
Really?
You had them at 3. Yep.
Look at me.
So section 3 last year was the run, the Eastridge girls lacrosse run as a 5 seed.
Yeah.
Do you get the feeling that you get the feeling that the Woodbury girls at 5 this year might have that same vibe? They've kind of
let's
kind of been
I'm gonna look up their schedule.
Turning it on as of late.
They have a Hooley. I said in the preseason show they have a Hooley. So I don't think if you've got a Hooley on the roster, I don't think you can sleep on him. And Hooley, stats galore, 64 points. She's not even the main show in town. You got this Shelby Marick, 60 goals. 60 goals this season. Not sure what grad year she is. They don't put grad years on the Woodbury roster. 60 goals. So You've got and then you've got Ella Cottle. So you've got 3 players over 60 points. Watch out. Watch
So-
out. I think Woodbury, they might be heating up.
Just to look at this though, they lost to Stillwater 13-11. They lost to Eastridge 13-12. They lost to Simley 18-12. And they lost to Park 12-8. So they're not getting blown out by these teams. Maybe fix a couple things. Could we see a 5 seed run? That Park Cottage Grove defense is legitimate, and I guess the quote goes, defense wins championships. So at 12-1, strong defense. Does Park shut down the big scoring of all these teams? We'll see. Park's only loss is to Stillwater back on May 1st. They have won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 games in a row.
Not bad. Not bad. No, Park put together a great regular season. However, where I have a problem, PMAC had the hedge fund in 4. If you don't know who the hedge fund is, it's St. Croix Prep, 10-3, and they're the 6th seed. What's going on here?
So I was just looking at their bracket. Like, if this is the section of an upset, they could upset CDH.
Who, my hedge fund?
St. Croix, yeah.
I agree. I'm still high on
And
the
then
hedge
they would
fund.
play Eastridge. but
Dividends have
Eastridge
been
is kind of
paid
a team
this
of-
year, and
but, like,
they give us a 6.
The Simley Woodbury 4 and 5 game, that's going to be a huge rematch. That could be, maybe we're going to see a little, like you said, EP team show up here within Simley or Woodbury. Maybe Woodbury will technically upset Simley. I don't know. Maybe Simley's going to walk in being like, we beat them already.
I don't know what else you want from my they dropped a couple, whatever. They had a 3-goal, Simley. They're right in the mix with Simley. 6 seed. Disrespectful.
Yeah. A lot of good quarterfinal games in this section, and it gets better from there. The sources prediction: Park over Eastridge, so they feel Park the top 2 teams will prevail to the final. I think would you call it a high seed or a low seed? Like a team lower in the rankings. Is that a high seed?
Low seed.
So like a 4, 5, 6-ish.
Yeah.
I would not be surprised if we find one of those teams in the finals.
Yeah, I think section 3, I got to fade the source on this one. I think anything but that will happen. Like it's going to be the section 3 is the wild, wild west.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. Section 4. Another section that
we overthought it. I think we overthought this one.
Maybe
at least I did.
Yeah. You got some interesting. Stillwater still gets the 1 over White Bear Lake, who beat them. So and it's not like Stillwater had only 1 loss, and it's a 9-3 Stillwater team gets the 1 over an 8-5 White Bear Lake, who beat Stillwater. So that's interesting to me. Again, coaches vote. Gentry at the 3, which is probably, are they the 3rd best team? I don't know. They just, with their schedule, they don't really play any of these other teams, so it's kind of hard to figure out where they stand. But I mean, I think they're as capable as anybody of winning the section with some of the firepower that they have. Kind of feels like it's a 3-horse race in this section to me.
Do you think 3 or 4? Because I think Hill Murray has made noise this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I think 3, but yeah, I mean, Stillwater, they got off to a hot start. They had some bumps in the road, but are they still, I still think they're probably the best team, but this section is very unclear to me. I don't see a lot of these teams play, and I guess, I would bet on Stillwater to win it, but I'm not so sure after, White Bear Lake beat them in the regular season. So This should be an interesting one.
Katie, what do you think on this section?
Well, I was muted and I was saying something. You almost had the top 4 correct.
Who's
You were like just flip-flopped White Bear and Stillwater, PMAX. So that
Yeah.
means you're kind of onto something. Ted and I had Matamidi up in the top 4. So I'm saying a Matamidi 5 upset Hill Murray 4 in a quarterfinal is what I think. And I think then what if I don't think they're going to upset Stillwater. I think it's going to be Stillwater. I'm going to say Stillwater and White Bear Lake. I think White Bear Lake will beat whoever it's either winner of Mounds View Tartan 7 and 10. I think White Bear Lake's going to beat Mounds View, and then I think White Bear Lake will beat. It's not even an upset, and it will be a Stillwater White Bear Lake rematch.
I think I'm with the source on this one. I think I'm starting to get a little nervous about Gentry because Gentry's been quiet. They've been lurking. They've been just winning, taking care of business. I think I'm starting to get worried about Gentry because they're gonna sneak attack. Like they're gonna sneak attack us.
And if you would have asked me 3 weeks ago, I would have said Stillwater running through this section. Now the source prediction is Gentry over Stillwater. I agree with you, PMAC. They have been laying in the weeds again. They play a lot of outer metro teams, so they just are out there. They're doing their thing. What? I don't know. There isn't. Maybe
I would say, yeah. I'm agree to disagree. I'm going Stillwater over White Bear.
All right.
In a rematch, unfinished business. The story of the game was not told. So we have to rewrite the story here. Chapter 2.
Yep. Right. On to section 5. This one is getting a little hairy late in the season with ties and thunderstorms and lightning. I was talking to a couple people about this one this week.
It's still not up.
Is it still not up?
It's still not up.
Maybe they're still deliberating.
As of this,
is the section 5 coaches deliberation still going on as we speak at 8:50 May 27th, Memorial Day evening?
It is not up.
It's up in Lax Hub in the sense of like each team, like I just pulled up Wayzata girls and it says next game against Blake.
Oh, okay. So it hasn't been inputted into the bracket.
But the source has sources.
Yeah, the source has sources, always.
The sources of the source.
Mrs. PMAC's source has sources.
So I guess we'll just run through this here because it's supposedly not up. BSM gets the 1. Maple Grove gets the 2. Champlin is the 3. Champlin Park. Wayzata the 4 at 6 and 7. Blake the 5 at 7 and 6. Did they play each other earlier in the year? Was there a head-to-head there? Pulling it up now, but the 7 is Hopkins, the 8 is Rogers, the 9 is Breck, 10 St. Louis Park, and 11 Osseo Park Center.
Wayzata did beat Blake.
Okay, so they get the head-to-head, which I like seeing. We'll probably talk a little bit about that later, about head-to-head.
Yes, we will.
So this is a good section. Honestly, I mean, BSM, Maple Grove, Champlin Park, 3 teams that are all in the top 10 in this latest DTA poll. That's a pretty stacked section of 3 top 10 teams in one section. Wayzata battle tested. They've played all the teams this year. You know, I feel like every night they play a top 10 team or someone top 10 caliber. What do you guys think? A lot of these teams have played each other already this year, and some weird things have happened.
You know, going into the season, you were thinking BSM. Like
that's what I was thinking.
Right, no matter what. And I think my gut is still telling me that. However, like they tied a week ago, and you also have Champlin Park again just doing their thing. where are they at? I don't know. Like, where are they going to be? How are they? This is maybe the section that intrigues me the most.
I agree. This is a good section. And Blake at 5 is plenty capable of winning against any of these teams. You know,
Okay, and I'm pulled up Wyzetta's. They only lost to Maple Grove by a goal.
they had a lot of close games this year, I feel like.
Champlin Park was probably their big, okay, maybe Benilde, but then Blake was only 11-9. So that's like kind of a close margin.
Yeah.
All the way, almost a month later, they're going to replay Blake.
Yeah.
I got to look at this again.
I think
wish they fill out the bracket.
I want it to be Champlin. Like, I want it. I'm rooting for Champlin. Like, they're my team in Section 5 this year that I'm rooting for. Like, Champlin, I'm behind you.
High on Wyzetta.
I'm behind Champlin. You hop on, Wyzetta, they got all the Beamers and the high-end cars in the parking lot. I'm with Champlin.
Was BSM no matter what? Was that a draft day reference? Was that Avante Davis no matter what?
Not on purpose. Not on purpose. If it ended up being that way, fine. But I was not quoting. That's what came out.
Honestly, we were all Rip Lucy. I didn't have official picks, but I probably would have picked BSM. But now I don't know. I don't know. I say if there's big four in a lot of sections, now these fifth seeds, these last two sections, Blake in section 5, Matamidi in section 4, Woodbury in section 3. That's these 5 seeds might come out of the woodwork and rattle some cages in some what are they, quarterfinal games?
Yep. I'm going with the Red Knights. I think that they knew that they had a couple games lined up here that potentially would be happening again. That tie was weird. But shout out to Maple Grove. Their last 2 weeks of lacrosse they've been on fire. They're a team that I think is playing their best lacrosse right now. I still think it runs through BSM. I think their 1-2 scoring punch is too much for a lot of these teams. And, if they decide to say give the ball to the A players, I think they're gonna be able to carry them. I'm going Red Knights.
Can we just talk for a second about how
there's no talking on this podcast.
Champlin Park with a 12-1 record is 3.
Yeah.
Well, they did lose to Maple Grove in the last game of the season.
Yeah.
But I'm sorry, a 12-1 record and you're 3?
Head to head.
That's just wild.
The 3 really good teams in this section. It is a shame that only one of these 3 will get to play in the state tournament. But it will make for a good section tournament for sure. Section
6, usually the section of doom. It appears that it won't be this year.
I hope not.
Am I crazy in thinking that? Or are we going to see some upsets and things are going to get a little weird late in this section, late in this year?
Yeah, Prior Lake has shown they've been pretty dominant in every single game except South. But even against other teams that are somewhere near the top 7 to 10, 6 to 10, they've crushed. So, obviously the favorite, last year, Edina's definitely down this year compared to what they were last year, going to the state final, kind of in a rebuild year. Rosemount had a moment there where they were on a roll, but Katie, I think you had mentioned there may have been some injuries, which
major injury plague.
It impacted their season. Not to say that they don't have a chance, they certainly do, but that will be something for them to battle through. And then Jefferson kind of been up and down. I think a team that has had some nice wins, but 8-5, they had some losses too. Do they have the depth to potentially get through Prior Lake in a semifinal. I don't know.
So Jefferson for me was gonna be kind of the wild card. Like, could they? I think 8-5 being the 4, I think is tough. Great, good record. Pulling that 4 seed. If they could have gotten the 3, I think Jefferson could have made. They still can, but could have definitely made a run to at least the section final.
And so they must have played Edina and lost head to head, right? Is that
I'll pull that up and confirm. I would assume
they did not play Edina. Yeah, interesting that Edina gets the 3 over Jefferson. Maybe it's strength of schedule. But I mean, it's not like they're both 6 and 7, or you know what I mean? Like I feel like Jefferson. I feel like they beat Blake, which is an interesting win for them. Like I would say that's a quality win. They lost Rosemount by 2.
Yeah.
Blake's a quality win.
Yeah, interesting. So that's seeding. I agree with you, PMAC. I think it's PL's Prior Lake's section to lose. But there's a lot of rivalries here. And you got to throw records out the window, especially with some of these rivalry games. But I do think Prior Lake will win. The source says Prior Lake over Edina. Interesting. I guess an interesting stat. It says, is there a better 6 and 7 team than Edina? So I guess if we want to pull up there,
wasn't Wayzata 6 and 7?
They were all 6 and 7 as well. Yep.
So I don't know.
So I guess Edina's losses are to Prior Lake, Champlin Park, Rosemount, Eden Prairie, Minnetonka, Lakeville South, and Stillwater. It's
all top 10 teams.
All top 10 losses. So, and they lost by 2 to Champlin. They lost by 1 to Rosemount, 4 to EP, 6 to Minnetonka, they lost by 11 to Lakeville South, and 10 to Stillwater, which is an interesting game. So they've been battle tested. They've played a lot of the top teams, and their wins. They beat Blake. They beat Wayzata. They crushed Wayzata. They beat Buffalo, who has been a decent team in Section 8. They beat Hopkins big. So I mean, like, a lot of their wins have been decent wins.
So watch out for Edina.
Even a quote-unquote down Edina is dangerous.
Yeah. Is a 3rd seed.
Yep. Section 7, a 13-0 Chisago Lakes leads the way, followed up by a Grand Rapids Greenway 10-2 and a Duluth 10-3. I don't know if we were as high on them as not. I guess we'll get to how clueless were we, but looking at those teams with those records, few teams having massive years that maybe aren't on everyone's radar.
Yeah. Shout outs.
How fun would it be to get one of those northern teams in the state tournament?
Yeah.
Like, no disrespect to Chisago Lakes, but like, how fun would it be to have like Duluth?
Who has been the Section 8? It was Elk River Zimmerman. And who was Section 7 last year?
Probably Andover.
Okay.
Or was it Centennial?
It was Andover. So, this is an interesting section. Duluth Marshall 6 and 3. They only played 9 games.
Yeah.
Let me look that up. They're the 4 seed. Very interesting. But
very interesting.
Lakes 13-0. I mean, what a run. Why I get it. Like, you might maybe aren't playing the top 10 teams, but you play the teams on your schedule to not have any blemish on your record, not even have a bad night, where sometimes you can have a bad night. That's impressive. 13-0, that's impressive.
So, but I will say that's hard to go into sections without a loss. I think that's a little bit of the curse, but maybe they'll prove me wrong.
Are you saying that they have a curse with the undefeated curse?
I'm saying being undefeated going into sections is a curse. So they might have a little bit of a curse right now. Not them being cursed. I'm saying, to me, it's a little cursy.
Yeah. We talked a little bit about Grand Rapids Greenway preseason, that they were kind of up and coming. Duluth was a team to keep our eye on. I was the only one that had them in the top 4, but I think the source had mentioned them. PMAC was faded Centennial, which was the right move. They're actually the 5. But 6 and 7, who knows what can happen. Andover 4 and 9 this year. That's an interesting. I think
I think
all
we cursed them. We
I'm
cursed
really
them because
surprised by that.
we all picked them 1. So of course they don't. Yeah, of course we
Yeah,
cursed them. It's our fault. I am sorry,
Yeah.
Andover. It's our fault.
So Chisago Lakes, the prediction from the source is Chisago Lakes over Grand Rapids Greenway, 1/2. I might have to throw a long shot here. I think Andover's going to make the section final.
Fire me up. Fire me up.
I don't know. I can't say they're going to win it. I think they're going to make the section final. I don't know why I feel that way, but I maybe I'm just not
ready
to give up my prediction quite yet.
So this is interesting. If you look at the bracket, if Andover beats Forest Lake, they'll play Duluth, and the game's played at the high seed. So they'll have to go to Duluth
Road trip
on Thursday and play up there. Same with Blaine and Anoka. So Blaine and Anoka, the winner of that game, is going to go up to Grand Rapids on Thursday. Right? Is that Thursday?
probably. Yeah.
So
Thursday, and go up north and play their section game.
Andover this year has lost to Rosemount by 3, Eden Prairie by 1. They lost by 13 to Champlin Park. They lost by 1 to Centennial. And this kind of started a 6-game losing streak, but they lost to Centennial, Blake, Wayzata, Elk River, Zimmerman, Maple Grove, and Robbinsdale, Armstrong, Cooper. So
it's not. Those are
like throw.
Okay, that
Scott?
gives me a little injury
I
vibe.
Could potentially be some injuries, but those are tough teams. Like those aren't throwaway games. So that's my long shot pick. Andover making the section final. I hope we see it. But shout out to Chisago Lakes 13-0, and Duluth Marshall, who was on nobody's radar, getting the 4 seed.
Section 8. How clueless were we on this one?
Well, I think the biggest thing that sticks out, the source mentioned this in the blog, STMA with a 2-11 record is in the 4 slot. Is that justifiable?
Is that worse than the 4 seed of was it? Section.
We'll get to section 7, boys.
No, section 5, girls, Champlin Park being 12-1, and they're 3.
No, this is more questionable.
Yeah, because Champlin Park was 12-1, but they lost to the team that's the 2 seed. And Benilde had a much tougher schedule, I believe. So that I think that was justifiable. But 2-11, I mean, they must have some of the top teams or something. I don't know.
So they beat Monticello on April 22nd. Monty is at 5. So is that 1 win over a month ago?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
gave them that
to the
bump.
4.
Yeah, and they must have just lost to all these teams. I mean, they played a very tough schedule. I will give it to St. Michael because they play in
the lake.
They're in the lake. So they played Ponca, Eden Prairie, Edina, Wayzata, Elk River. So yeah, I mean, maybe it's just they beat like you said, Monticello and Sartell Sauk Rapids.
So I'm going to go like you, Ted, and I'm going to say we're going to see Monty in the section final. I think they're going to beat
in the section
STMA.
They're going to beat Elk River.
Yeah.
I've faded Elk River. I didn't have them in the top 4. What was I thinking? Did anybody remember what I
No,
said
you're
back then?
clueless.
No idea.
Holy clueless.
Yeah, I agree. I think Elk River Zimmerman is gonna win this one. They've looked to take care of business against, most of these teams, and their losses have come to pretty solid top 10 teams. So Minnetonka, Maple Grove, and Champlain Park are their 3 losses, all teams in the top 10. I think they're the strongest team. Plus, they got that playoff experience from last year. I'm gonna go Elk River as well. But so maybe Katie, maybe the Magic Monty Magic have some magic.
I hope so.
On to the boys. But before we go to the boys, Ted, I think I had a first in a lacrosse game. I think I had a first the other night. And it seems like there's always a first, right? But
Yeah.
28 years old, I've been around lacrosse more of the years I've been alive than not. We had a redraw in the boys game.
A redraw.
We had a redraw. Has there ever been a redraw of a game that you've been a part of, that you've seen, that
So
you've witnessed?
can you explain to me kind of just quickly what the situation was? Was this like the face off happened and was played out and then it was redrawn, or like, hell, hold on, like you guys get reset?
So face off happened.
Okay.
Loose ball push going one direction. Doesn't even matter what direction. I'm not complaining about what happened. I needed to verbalize this. This has been like, I'm spurring discussion because I've never seen a redraw happen in a boys game. So I'm just bringing this to light. I'm not complaining. I'm not, none of that. I'm just bringing it to light. So ball was loose ball push. While, players picking it up, the attack and defense released out of that situation, out of the box area. They weren't supposed to because possession hasn't been called yet. The ref said double technical on each team for leaving instead of just pushing them back on like it's done every other time and every other lacrosse game I've been a part of. Hey, you guys aren't released yet. Go back. That's how it's been called every other time that I've been around.
You're saying like go back, the whatever team got the push,
You guys aren't released. Like there hasn't been possession yet. You have to wait for the whistle, then you can release.
Yep.
He didn't send them back. He said, you both left, double technical, redraw, new face off.
I've never had that. That would be I agree. That would be a new thing for me as well.
Okay.
I've had a situation where it was a down set tweet, but then a quick whistle saying something went wrong.
Sure.
Like couple players left early, or someone wasn't set up right.
Yeah.
Redraw, but I've never had it actually play out to like a possession or a push or whatever, ground ball, and then have it just, we're going to start over.
Yeah. So that was a first.
Interesting.
Again, I'm not complaining. I'm just bringing that to light discussion because I had never seen anything like it.
Interesting.
Over to the boys section preview. Again, Down the Alley pod. Ted did his homework this weekend. Quarterly check-in and section preview boys on downthealleypod.com. Great work on this. Thank you for compiling all the information for me and the people. Section 1, gonna go through Lakeville North again as the 1 seed. You and the Tigers are on their heels. How is this one looking? How is it shaping up? And how clueless were we?
I think we did a pretty good job. We all had PMAC, you and I both had New Prague in the top 4. And so that
not a big deal. I've been all over them early and often.
Had a really nice season. I I think North and Farmington as the top two were as expected, but shout out to Owatonna for getting the 4 seed.
Yeah.
They started the season 0-4, 0-5 maybe. I have to look this up. They were the best winless team for a while because we had played them, and they're not a bad team at all. They're actually a pretty good team, and they were 0-5 to start. And we talked about this, I think, in the last episode, but they lost 11-10 to Rosemount, 11-10 to New Prague, 12-8 to Farmington, 11-8 to Northfield, and 11-10 to Andover. So like a bunch of close losses. And then they've ripped off 1, 2, 8 wins in a row. So
Wow.
not a team that that not a team that you want to see in playoffs, or they've turned it around.
So they're 0-5. They finished the season 8-0. So now they're 8-5.
Yes.
They have 8 games. Wow. So the momentum is on their side right now.
Yeah. So shout out to them. I don't think any of us had Owatonna anywhere near the top 4. Northfield's put together a nice season at 7-6. Lakeville South is much improved this year at 5-7. And I think, they're not an easy team either. And so this could be an interesting section. I look at all these teams obviously a lot because they're in our section. We have to kind of know who we're playing and scouting, and a lot of these teams are very much improved and are gritty and are good teams that are ripe for an upset at any time.
Yeah, Northfield, I've seen them play live. They're not going to be an easy out. I think this Lakeville South New Prague game, that was a 1-goal game in the regular season. I called for that to be an overtime game. Didn't make it to overtime, but it was a 1-goal game. I think that's going to be a barn burner come they'll have each other in the quarterfinal. Another very improved team, a team a couple years ago struggled to even win a game. Southwest Christian at 8, 9-4. I would assume this is a schedule, thing, strength of schedule, but them being 9-4, being the 8, I'm sure they're not thrilled about that. But another team in this section, much improved.
Agreed. And if you look at North and Farmington, 2 teams that played for the finals last year in a 2-goal game, played in the regular season this year to a 1-goal game. If it ends up being that way, I think we can expect a pretty competitive section the whole way through. So, yeah, not going to make predictions, but I think everybody knows who I predict to win. But it should be Section 1 has gotten a lot better over the last couple of years.
Agreed. Section 2. I feel like there's a few teams in here that are kind of in a similar, record wise, right around 500, a little over 500, whatever, that, that are kind of vying. You've got Chan and Tonka. They were the 2 favorites kind of going into the season. And then you had Orono, again, 6-7, good schedule. I think they have an opportunity here to maybe quote unquote upset to make a section final. I think that's a real possibility for them.
Yeah, I think Orono, in my opinion, has the best goalie in the section. So when you have a great goalie, you can always find a way to stay in games. Buffalo at 5-8, getting the 4 over Chaska 6-7. I thought that was interesting. Unless they played, I don't know if they played, and there was a head-to-head there. It seems like Chaska got off to a rough start, but has played a lot better and like a lot closer games as of late. So I don't know if there were injuries, things of that nature, but yeah, I don't know. And I know Buffalo had that big win over Eden Prairie, I believe it was. So maybe that quote unquote quality win, top 10 win, was enough to bump them above. But I think that Buffalo Chaska game is going to be an interesting one.
And don't sleep on Delano. They had a 1-goal loss against Orono. And they're going to play them again here. So, upset alert on Delano over Orono. I don't know.
I mean, I don't know. I think you're right. And Buffalo has lost 6 in a row against pretty tough competition, but they only lost 7-5 to Orono. So and they wouldn't play them until um a potentially a section final if both teams made it. But yeah, Delano at 8-5. That's a pretty good record. Yeah, this section is interesting with a lot of teams that I think match up well with each other and could beat each other, even the top 2 teams.
Agreed. I think this is Chan's section to lose this year. I think Chan is the favorite. But I think there's a lot of potential interesting matchups that could shake out. And that's why you play the games. Section 3. I think this is the Wild Wild West section, just kind of like in the girls. What a year. What a year for Eastridge coming in 12-1. I know you've been kind of riding this team. You've been watching this team. I know Farmington's played them over the last couple of years. Eastridge 12-1, getting the 1 seed.
Yeah, they've had a heck of a year. Their one loss is to Stillwater by 1. So they've taken care of business. They beat Woodbury by 1 in overtime earlier in the year.
These 1-goal games aren't solidified for me either way. Like, I mean, a 1-goal game to me might as well be a tie.
And Woodbury, Woodbury got off to a tough start, I think, of what, like, maybe the public or their standards. They're still 10-3, so don't get me wrong, they're a good team, but they dropped that game to Eastridge, and then they dropped one to CDH, and people were kind of like, Woodbury's done. Maybe not people, maybe me. Maybe it just was me. But they've clawed their way back, had a huge win over Egan last week to basically give them the 2 seed. I mean, that was like, Egan could have maybe potentially vied for the 1. Eastridge and Egan didn't play, but Woodbury with the upset win over Egan last week gets them the 2 seed. They're riding a 4-game winning streak. Honestly, I think in the way they play lacrosse, they're very disciplined. They play good defense. They play methodical, slow. They don't make a lot of mistakes. They play a winning brand of lacrosse, especially playoff lacrosse. So,
I watched some film on them. I would agree with you. The 3 seed, complete opposite of them. You got Egan, who flies by the seat of their pants. They're a bunch of wildcats. That's assuming they can both make it to that'd be the section semis to play each other. That could be what?
That's no guarantee in this.
No guarantee. I think this is. I think this is going to get weird. I think things are going to get weird. I don't know how to pick this one because I think there's 5. I think you go down to 5. I think any one of them, if you tell me they win the sections, they come out and win the section, I wouldn't be surprised. However, you got other teams, Hastings could muck some things up. They're going to come out and be physical. Trimac is 8-4. I don't know a ton about them, to be honest with you, but you got some teams that are going to try to, shake things up.
Yeah, I agree. And Cretin and St. Thomas Academy just played like last Thursday. And so they're to a 7-5 Cretin win, they get a rematch right away. Huge rivalry. So who knows what's going to happen there. This is the people's section. This is going to get weird. I agree. I can't even predict a winner, honestly.
I think I'm not predicting.
I think there's going to be at least one upset. So I'll say Eastridge is not going to be the winner.
So this isn't a prediction, but I'm rooting for Eastridge. I'm rooting for Eastridge. I love their comeback the last couple of years. I think kind of like this is a good win. Like this is kind of a window where they have a lot of the pieces kind of together, where they can do it. So I'm rooting for Eastridge this section playoff.
Fair enough.
Who'd you watch film of, Eastridge or Woodbury?
Woodbury was playing against, I don't remember who I was watching to scout somebody. Section 4. Again, I think this is Ben Stillwater's section. And it continues to be, by the looks of it, it's going to have to run through them. I think they're the clear favorite going into this tournament. Plenty of teams on their heels. White Bear Lake, they've won a state championship. Mounds View, the people are talking about them. Matamidi, Face-Off Factory. Hill Murray, another program on the rise. But it's going to have to go through Stillwater. Ted, what do you got?
Yeah, I wrote here in the blog just kind of a swing and a miss on this section for us. I think we all had Stillwater right. But at least for me, I had Irondale at third and Roseville at fourth. They're sixth and 7th. Nobody had Mounds View in the top 4. They've had a great season. I think PMAC maybe had White Bear Lake somewhere in the top 4, but I agree. I think it does run through Stillwater. Matamidi is weird to me this year. I felt like they had the talent to be much better than they are. I don't know. Again, I don't know if there was injuries or things that happened that kind of altered the course of their season, but potentially a Stillwater Matamidi semi, big rivalry game. And I think the Stillwater White Bear Lake is a big rivalry too, if that ends up being the section final. However, Mounds View played Stillwater to 1 goal. But White Bear Lake beat Mounds View pretty handedly. So a lot of weird scores in this section. I would say I feel like Stillwater's the best team, but they've shown that they've been able to make it a game with teams that supposedly are quote unquote better than them or they're better than. So I don't know if that's just what Stillwater team you're going to get or if they're just it's been interesting. They've been an interesting team this year.
Yeah, no, we just played them. I think they're the real deal. They got pieces all over the field in key areas. I think the Ponies make it out of this one.
Yeah, I agree.
In my opinion, from what I saw against Prior Lake, so obviously I've seen them play 1 game. They're bigger, stronger, faster. So if they can put the rest of the pieces, they definitely have the physicality that no one can touch them in the physical sense. So if they could piece the lacrosse together, great goalie too, in my opinion. I think he is a gamer and a key to their defense. So they're fun to watch. So I think like we've said, it's kind of theirs to lose.
Are they the Electric Factory this year? Are they this year's Electric Factory?
I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know if
at a home game. At a home game, they might be.
I don't know if I've seen an Electric.
Always?
Who?
Stillwater always has juju around them. Stillwater always has an aura. But I don't think they're a PMAX certified Electric Factory.
Lakeville North last year was an Electric Factory. I don't know if I've seen an Electric Factory this year. Have you?
No, I don't know. Stillwater kind of felt like they were early, but they've played a lot of low scoring kind of grinder games lately too. Yeah. I guess good for them. They have multiple identities. They can win close, low scoring games. They can run it up. Egan kind of felt Electric Factory-ish for a while there.
Hey, when it's hot, it's hot.
Yeah, and so
what about Eastridge?
Yeah, I haven't.
I guess neither of you have seen them play.
We scrimmaged them in the.
Oh, you did?
Year. They have a really good offense too, but I don't think they play. I don't think they play as up tempo as North did last year. But yeah, interesting. Yeah, I think I agree. Stillwater is the favorite, but a lot of rivalries and tough teams in this section too that could make it interesting.
So Section 5, I feel the same way about the boys Section 5 as the girls Section 5. Kind of going in, right? It was BSM, right? BSM. Then kind of in the number 2 in the back of your mind, you got Maple Grove, at least for me going into the season. To recap, we've got 3 12-1 teams, 3 12-1 teams, and Maple Grove's a 4. What happened here? What happened here?
Maple Grove's a 4 at 10-3.
And Rogers is in it. Did any of us had Rogers?
There's no way. There's no way I picked Roger. How
We'll
clueless were we?
I'm going to start.
Nobody had Rogers in the top 4.
I'm going to start there because they deserve a shout out for the season that they've had. The winners of the Northwest Suburban Conference, the 3 seed, mainly because of, I would say, strength of schedule at this point, but they're 12-1 with Wayzata and BSM, who are both 12-1. So Rogers, credit where credit is due. Unbelievable season for them. They might shake some things up in this section. I don't think, if you ask BSM, Wayzata, Maple Grove, kind of the teams that have been the top of this section, if they were planning to play Rogers in the section semifinals, I don't think they would have believed you. So now they got to scramble to figure out who's Rogers. Who are these guys? 12-1.
They're the wild card. Are they the Electric Factory? I
would give anything for them to go to state.
That would be incredible.
That would be Electric Factory.
That would be Electric Factory.
The elephant in the room, I think, is can any of these teams run with Benilde for 48 minutes? I think that's going to be the question. I think Rogers and Maple Grove and Wayzata all have, and even Armstrong, all have great individual pieces that can play. But do they have top to bottom the depth to play with the Red Knights for 48 minutes? I think that's the thing. The one caveat, Wayzata's defense is exceptional this year, and they have the pulls to take some guys out of the game, and they have a goalie, and they do some interesting things in the ride. Could they muck it up enough to win a meat grinder game? I don't know. That would be my.
Can I flip it? Because in past years, BSM has only had to play 48 minutes. Right? It's been pretty easy till the section final, and then maybe sometimes things get a little interesting.
Yep.
This year, they potentially might have to play 96 plus minutes. That section semifinal might get interesting. That section final might get interesting. Is this uncharted territory for the Red Knights?
This is the best section 5 has been in a while. And so that's an interesting thought. I'm still very much on, the Red Knights they have one mission, and they know what that is, and they've been playing without one of their best players and still find a way to win and dominate. So if they get him back, are they even better? But yeah, like I don't think it's a cakewalk like it maybe was in years past.
I don't know. I agree with you. It's still the Red Knights section. It's going to run through them until it doesn't. So I agree with you, right? And I don't think anyone's arguing, that point. But I hope this one gets a little more fun than usual. Section 6. We've talked about hard sections. Some people may say this is the hardest section. You've got, 7 teams that on, just by name brand, you could, if they came out of it, you wouldn't surprise you just based off the name brand.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've been following lacrosse for the past 4 years, we'll just say that you should know that this is hard.
So I agree with you. And I think I kind of mentioned this, is that, you got Prior Lake and Jefferson, 12-1, 11-1. Edina, who has played a tough schedule and has had some quality wins this year as a 3rd seed. Eden Prairie at 8-5 has been kind of hanging around. They've played a lot of good teams really tough. You played them.
I feel like they're the Gentry of boys lacrosse. Like they've
I
been
was
silent.
just gonna say that.
Were
I
you?
was literally just gonna say that.
I swear that's not written down anywhere, at least that I know of. So I didn't steal your quote, at least not on purpose. Like now that I think about it, I've heard nothing on EP. I hear this about this team, and I hear that about that team. Eden Prairie, 4 seed, 8-5. No, who's talking about Eden Prairie?
Nobody is. I've seen a little bit of them. They're gritty. They have good defense. They got a good goalie. They have enough offense to find a way. They like to keep games close. So they're an interesting club. Then you got Rosemount Valley and Shakopee, 5, 6, 7, all at 6 and 7. The fact that a team at 6 and 7 that was in the state semis last year is playing in a play-in game in their section this year at 6 and 7. Yeah, they've had a down year compared to last year, but they're in a play-in game. They're playing a play-in game at 6 and 7. That goes to show you how deep this section is. And Shakopee started the season 0 and 4, and they've had a nice turnaround in the second half here. So, like, and then Valley and Rosemount, 2 teams that I've personally seen, they're very capable clubs of winning any game at any time.
I don't know. Like you can't really project this section. Like you've got all these 6 and 7 teams. I could see what the 5 and 4 play. So you've got a Rosemount Eden Prairie matchup. If I had to say, that one's probably going to go to overtime. You've got the Valley Edina. I've played the Valley. We have not played Edina. With just how up and down Edina's been, and with the way the Valley plays, I feel like this is just going to be an ugly one. Like this is going to be a close one. Valley's going to make it. They're not going to go out not swinging. Like, yeah, don't sleep on the Valley on this one. And then again, I would imagine Shakopee is going to be coming out of this one, playing Jefferson. Again, Jefferson's the favorite. But like you said, Shakopee was in a state semifinal last year.
Yeah, this is the deepest section as far as the amount of teams that could have a first round upset or even win the section, honestly. And obviously Prior Lake's taking care of business, gets the 1, which looks to be a really important 1 seed, because like some of these 5, 6, 7 teams are not easy quarterfinals for the other, for the 2 and the 3. So we'll see if that makes an impact. Like you said about BSM potentially having to play 96 minutes of tough lacrosse, does that impact some of these other teams? Very interesting section, very deep section, the section of doom, whatever you want to call it. I think it's living up to its name. And maybe kind of one last thing, when you got EP, Rosemount, Valley, and Shakopee playing with house money, that you might just get a all out full send from them.
It's scary. It's scary. It's scary.
Yeah. Section 7.
I feel like this has just been boiling your blood all weekend.
Yeah, Section 7, for whatever reason, the rumor is they decided to go QRF seeding, which is some algorithm that Minnesota high school sports uses in other sports, I think in football.
What does that stand for?
I have no idea.
I looked it up.
Anyways, it's like an algorithm of
So it's like in fantasy football where you do like auto draft.
No, it's it would be like a lax numbers, almost like an algorithmic ranking versus of coaches vote.
Got it.
Sections are seeded
quality ranking formula.
Okay.
The formula.
How does one section use this and the other sections don't?
The rumor is that in years past, Section 7 coaches have not participated in the seeding. So they have incomplete voting, and it created a headache for the ADs. And like, oh, they're not showing up. What do we do? or they're not submitting their votes. What do we do? So the ADs decided, well, all right, if that's the way that it's going to be, we're just going to go with the QRF. The formula will spit it out, and that's what we're going to do. Which, again, do you blame them? I don't know. If that's true, I don't blame them at all.
I agree. I agree with you.
Oh, if that's true. However, this is what we get then of Andover, the one. They've had a great season. So no, this is not shade at Andover,
Nope.
but they lost 20-8 to Centennial, and Centennial's the 5 seed. So the 1 seed lost to the 5 seed by like 12 goals. Cloquet Esco Carlton, great story. Love the brand, love the vibe.
Was I right? Was I right?
You were right. They are
Thank
the
you.
4. They've played about a bottom 10 schedule this year.
Hey, they're a first year program. Don't knock on my Cloquet Esco Carlton.
I'm not throwing shade at them. I love the brand, but are they better than Centennial, Champlin, and Blaine and Chisago, who have played a much tougher schedule? I don't know. Well, I guess we'll see, right? So anyway, this section, I think anything can happen because I don't even know where teams are seated. Like, you could have Blaine, the 7 seed, come out of this section. Honestly, like,
This is giving
you could.
like college sophomore year lottery number picking for housing.
yeah, I mean, it's
That's the vibe I'm getting of like you get a lottery number and then you get to go pick your housing for sophomore year.
and like Chisago Lakes is not bad. We played them. Farmington played them first game of the season, and they got some nice players. They're the 8 seed at 6-6. So I don't know exactly what the QRF situation does and like how it ranks or like what it values over other things. But I think if you were to vote this section, you would probably have it be different. And for example, on May 15th, Andover, the 1 played Chisago Lakes, the 8, and it was a 15-14 game. Andover wins. So that's a rematch in the quarters of 2 teams that seem to be pretty equal. So very interesting. Anything can happen.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that was a thing, this QRF.
So what do who do we think is going to come out? Like, is Centennial going to come out of this?
Yeah, I think so.
I think Centennial is the best team out of this group of teams.
And maybe a Champlin Park.
I haven't really looked at Champlin, to be honest with you.
Just because of their record. But Hermondale Proctor has the same record. But I mean, if Champlin Park's playing you guys, like if one of their losses was to you guys.
Yeah. So check this though. If it ends up, they have 13 teams in their section. So there's definitely a bunch of play-in games. Centennial, if Cloquet and Centennial end up winning and play each other, and maybe they already do. Let me look.
People played tonight.
So if Cloquet Esco Carlton beats Duluth Marshall and Centennial beats Grand Rapids Greenway, Centennial will be traveling up to Cloquet on the 30th, which is Thursday.
Yeah. It's like the girls.
Home field advantage, baby.
In Duluth.
Very interesting. Just this one is wild. This is one to watch just because of the way it got seeded. Roll a dice. I don't know. I'm taking Centennial to win this section. I think they're the best team out of this group, but I think Chisago Lakes could make things interesting as well.
On to Section 8. Last but not least, I think we were fading Moorhead, or at least I was. Kind of going into the year. They regain and they show it's still their section until proven otherwise. They get the 1. STMA, that's who I'm riding with this year. They're the 2. Monty Magic, the 3 at 9-4. Good record, good season under that new staff. And then, it kind of goes, down from there. Is this a three-headed monster? Is this Moorhead section still? What are the vibes here?
Yeah, shout out to Monticello. A great season with the new staff there. I was not that high on them going into the season. 9-4, great record. And Brainerd, also shout out to them, being 7-6 after being 3-11 last year. So they earned the
That's
5.
huge.
So that's a nice turnaround for them. I think it is Moorhead section to lose. They've lost 3 games this year to Woodbury, Egan, and Benilde. So 3 top 10-ish caliber teams that have been in the top 10. They beat STMA last week by 2. So that earned them home field advantage, but I'm not ready to hand it over to Moorhead yet. I think St. Michael Albertville has a chance. They're just going to have to travel up there and prove it in Spud's territory.
Katie?
I got nothing. I was looking at scores from tonight. Looks like Elk River Zimmerman is still in, and that was really the only notable one
Fair enough.
for Section 8.
Yeah, I think that's all she wrote for this episode. I think things are going to get interesting. I think games technically started today or tonight as we are recording, and then a ton of games tomorrow, and then even more on Thursday. So, by the time we record either Thursday evening or Friday morning, I think there's going to be a lot to talk about by then. I would think.
Yeah. Games already started. Games are getting underway, and it's playoff time now. I mean, I'm sure if this season has given us anything, there'll probably be more questions.
Yeah. If last year was year of the upset, this year is the questions getting answered with questions.
I'm during non-Section 1 situations that I'm involved in personally, I'm glued to Section 7. Boys.
Are you all in on Section 7? That's your section this year?
I'm fascinated by the QRF, and it would be crazy if the 1, 2, 3, 4 end up winning and the 1 and the 2 play and the 1 makes it through and it perfectly predicts everything.
No way. No way. No way.
That would just change.
It would change the world. I would have no faith in the human mind anymore.
AD in every section will just go straight QRF from here on out.
And
did the coaches
your fingers for the 1 seed?
Did the coaches just plug some stuff into Chat GPT and said rank us?
I guess. I don't know. It seems like potentially what happened.
So Section 7 is the Chat GPT section.
We should do that with a section. After it's all said and done, put it in Chat GPT and then be like, who's going to win this section? And see if we have our picks and how clueless we are. Let's see how clueless Chat GPT is.
Let you test that and we'll post it.
I don't even know how to do that. I literally don't even I Google Chat GPT and it comes up.
Yeah, I think that's how it works. Yeah. I don't think it's.
You use Chat GPT a lot, so you would know how it works.
I don't use it a lot.
Use it a lot.
I don't use it a lot.
Used it more than me.
I'll see if I can get Chat GPT to plug out a prediction. That's all she wrote. Section preview. We're left with more questions than answers, and we might have even more questions come Thursday night, even though more games will be played. That's all she wrote. Go Lakers.